Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's videos. Today I just want to share a story, or a story within stories with you, plus a little bit of my own esoteric philosophizing about the nature of reality. We are here back in the Skoda Rapide, with obviously baby. Oh, he's just fallen asleep. Little Iggy, I call him Iggy, Isaac, the promised child. I've got obviously a filter going on. Because who wants to do things in post-production? As Bill O'Reilly shouted in the 80s when he was having a good sniff, "We'll do it live! We'll do it live!" Back in 2001, September the 11th, 2001, I was on a beach in Koh Phangan in Thailand with my friend Alan. And I had just turned 21 years old the previous month. And we're having a kind of sang tip bucket. Sang tip bucket. If you've been to Thailand, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, with the little concentrated pharmaceutical Red Bull that all sorts of urban legends about the strength of the Red Bull in Thailand. But, you know, mix that with their local strong whiskey stuff, and it's a recipe for a lot of fun. Anyway, so there we are, drunk on the beach, having a good time. And it must have been, I don't know what time of day it was, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, 4 o'clock, I don't know. And suddenly this Thai guy, a Thailandese gentleman, a Thai guy came running down onto the beach. Come see your country, problem, big problem. So we're like, whoa, what's going on? So we go to his bar. And he had one of those giant, you know, big in the 80s, 90s, these kind of like internal Sony projection TV things, where it's like an internal giant box. It was like a 100-inch screen. And there we are, CNN, live feed, CNN International. And we watched one of the towers on fire, and then like tens, hundreds of millions of people around the world, we watched the second plane hit live. And when I was watching it with Alan, who's a Scotsman, and there's a bunch of all national Germans, Danish, British, Israeli, everyone just on the beach having a good time, but everyone glued to the television. And when the second plane hit, it was obvious what happened. Anyway, in my young brain at the time, that started a bunch of stuff going on. And I joined the British Army Reserves not long after that. You know, young, naive, thinking that that was going to help, feeling like I needed structure, heroism, adventure, to be a warrior. And I joined it was the Royal Logistics Corps in Edinburgh. And back in the day, I think is it still called the Territorial Army, or is it British Army Reserves now? I think they've rebranded. And I joined, and it was a lot like the structure I had in school. The seatbelt just fell down. I was good at all the shit. Good at disassembling the SA-80, good at reassembling the SA-80, because I had an air rifle when I was a little kid. I was very good marksman, very good shot, even though I'm left-handed, and the SA-80, I think it was already the Mark II by the time I was there, I think. It's a right-handed rifle. You cannot shoot it left-handed. And it's funny, growing up, my dad always said, like, oh, you got to learn to shoot with both sides, because you're not going to have a left-handed weapon if you join the armed forces. And I was like, yeah, I'll get a left-handed one. And then he had an answer for that as well. He's like, well, look, say you're in the battlefield, you lose your gun, or your gun gets damaged. You got to pick up someone else's gun or get another gun. That's not going to be a left-handed gun. So I was like, Dad, okay, you got me. I'll learn how to shoot right-handed. So in the TA, in the Army Reserves, I was one of the best shots there. As well, being someone that has always done very long walks, I was one of the only people that didn't get any blisters from the army boots going on these 7-mile, 10-mile walks. And that's great. You know, I was like very happy with that. A lot of the guys suffered. A couple of the guys fainted. It was all ages, because it was like reserves. You know, it was like 20-year-olds, 35-year-olds. I was 23, I think, at the time, 2004. And, you know, I believed in the clash of civilizations. You know, the media is a powerful tool. if you want to get young, naive men to sign up and conscript themselves and do stuff, all you need to do is play them CNN International with the pundits telling you how it is. So I did the 2-week camps. It was like RAF, blokes. That was when I was in the combined cadet force at school. It wasn't RAF Northolt. There was some army bases, and they were doing SBS training, special boat service training there. There was Chinooks. And I remember in the cafeteria, in the kind of barracky food hall, seeing these giant men with big beards and like really tanned, leathery faces. And they stood out like, you know, if we were all ore, these were like chunks of gold. These guys were like, who the F are these guys? And people were like, Charlie, that's the SBS. Don't mess with them. And they were doing Chinook training, all sorts of things, really cool. And what turned me off the armed forces completely, I had no problems with any of the map reading, the weapon stuff, the planning stuff, the kind of camping. There's a lot of camping, a lot of being cold, a lot of being very wet here in the UK. But when we were doing the training, it was officer training. I was, you know, officer training with the aim to go to Sandhurst, which is the British military college. But before I got to that stage, I was completely turned off by the British Army, because one of the trainers, and this has happened to me throughout my life, and the one common denominator in all this is me, so I try and reflect, but this trainer guy, this warrant officer or staff sergeant, whatever he was, he hated me. He took an instant dislike to me. He nicknamed me Gorilla on day one. There was no racial undertones, and I think that's fucked up how people associate monkeys with black people. Like there was some H&M clothesline, there was a young black guy with a monkey shirt on, and like, you can't put a black boy in a monkey t-shirt. And even the kid's mum was like, why not? Why are you people who are calling out racism associating black people with monkeys? You're the racist, not... Anyway, he nicknamed me Gorilla because I was very big. I was a lot heavier at the time. Not fatter, I was a lot, I guess, broader in my early 20s, as I guess we all are. And there was some issue, and I was very good at a lot of stuff, not to blow my own trumpet here, but I was competent. And this offended him for some reason. And there was like sentry duty, I think part of our camp, it was all LARPing, live action role playing. And it's funny, at the army gates, they had like signs saying, look out for these, those old, like 20-year-old signs on the wall. Look out for these old Soviet markings, these like Russian license plates. If they're taking photographs, you report them. And there I was, this was like before smartphones, yeah? So there I was, sat there all night, being, you know, me and this other cadet, officer cadet, given the sentry duty at the gates. And you had to literally be up all night. I think it started at 10, you got relieved at 6, and then it's straight on to the exercises. So the point was to rotate it amongst all the cadets, all the officers, so that you'd get screwed up one night, but then you'd catch up on the next night's sleep. And I could understand that. In war, in the military, you don't always get to sleep. So for me, oh yeah, I'll practice staying up all night, and I'll go to the training the next morning. I'll have a shower and get on with the day and forget about it. But this guy, this staff sergeant, who nicknamed me Gorilla, he made me do it 2 nights in a row. I did it the first night, and I was fine. And then I can't remember, because it's like 16 years ago. He then said something, how was that, Gorilla? And I gave some comments, and it was absolutely fine. I think I was the first person to have to do it. And he goes, well, you're doing it again tonight. And I was like, nah. He's like, oh, you're disobeying the order. And there was a bit of tension. Like, I was like, look, I've not slept. Like, this is officer training. We're only here for 2 weeks. Out of 13 nights, you're going to make me not sleep for 2 of those nights. I'm sorry, that's not fair. You've taken a dislike to me. And he caused a stink. He took me aside. He was like right in my face. Like, and I was a lot taller than him, bigger than him. And I think that's one of the reasons he disliked me. Anyway, I survived those 2 weeks, and I thought, you know, there's arseholes everywhere. I'm not going to discount the entirety of the British Army because one staff sergeant didn't like me. So I then ended up moving to London in 2005, because everyone, all my friends, my brother, who was my best friend, moved to London. So it's what you do when you're Scottish, you're in Edinburgh. Edinburgh can be a small place. I think unless you're ready to start kids there and then, young men, you move to London, I say. So I moved to London and I thought I'll continue the armed forces stuff. So I contacted the British Army Reserves and they said, oh, great, good, officer training. So they put me with a new group. But here's the problem. This new group was about 6 months more advanced than what I would done. And I had no idea what they were about, who they were, at what stage they were. And the other young men in the officer training were really pissed off that I was a new guy. They didn't know. They'd have their cliques, you know, they had their camaraderie. And then I was like, oh, hi guys. So they were really twattish to me and I had no idea what was going on. So I just one day, after I think 3 days on the next 2-week camp, I just packed my bags and I was like, I'm off. And then as I'm leaving, one of the trainer guys, he's, oh, Charlie, blah, blah, come back. So I chat to him and he goes, look, you know, you've signed the paperwork, even with the British Army Reserves, you signed up for 3 years. You're not allowed to just leave, you know, away without leave. You can't just leave, you're signed up. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry, man. I just don't think I want to do it anymore. So sue me, arrest me, take me away. And he just let me walk out the gates. And that was it. Never heard anything back. Never heard anything. So I just want to just meditate for a moment in life, just how many things are messed up by negligence, by arseholes, by things going wrong. So that's just a little bit about me that you may not have known. And obviously now I wouldn't, you know, unless you're home, unless it's like coming to your city, like the evil demons, you need to then do something. But don't know if I agree with signing up to mainstream armed forces right now. I just don't think I do. I think the world's at a very sad place in terms of being a clown world. So we shall see.